Good evening. It's Monday, 7 o'clock, March the 2nd, 2020. So, as requested, let's do some Facebook check-in here. So this is a stock I used to hold, so you can see there's some decorations on here. So we won't really get into this. Let's just exit, remove some of these. We got some old trend lines. Let's do this nice and fresh. Got some vertical stuff. You got me doing some Elliott wave theory on here. This is a little bit more intense. We got some old Fibonacci. Some of this was probably just comparing previous things historically and trying to make a prediction what could happen in the future. So let's keep consistent of how we're looking at these charts. So each person, depending if they're trading day to day, if they're trading month to month, week to week, that depends on the time frame that we're gonna make each one of these individual candles represent. So I like to go in a monthly time frame because it does give a great sense historically how Facebook has acted. And yeah, so we can see here right from its kind of start on this market, it's been a pretty good trail upward. Really respecting this 13-day exponential moving average. And you can see right here, it breaks it, falls, and gets caught by what? Oh, the 55. So historically, this looks like a pretty good indicator to use. So you can see right here, there's some fake outs right here. You could have sold here, and then just would have continued on, right? That wouldn't be totally great, but you can see where you take the value from where it's closed. So it closed right here, so it didn't close underneath. And right here, you can see it's really questioning it, but yeah, I wouldn't say that's a concisive close right here. That's when it's probably giving you an indication of what's to come. And a few months later, it did actually break that. So you can say that this is testing this resistance. It gets supported. We can say it gets tested again, gets supported one more time, and each time it tested, there's a bigger chance it's going to fail. So then here, right around 2018, we had a drop in Facebook, pretty healthy one. I think I remember that too. I'm thinking like, oh, Facebook's going down, all that fear that comes in the market. So looking at there, it's not substantial. I mean, 25% compared to what you see in some of these other stocks, but yeah, you can see that there's some you can avoid. Um, Right now, you can see it's a long par here. It's keeping up with this. I wouldn't say that there's any too much for worry. I mean, it's hugging it right here. On a monthly standpoint, if we're talking like holding for years at a time, doesn't look like it's quite slowing down yet. Like, this could easily keep moving upward until, let's say, right around here. Then it's gonna have a decision to make. Can we keep sustaining this upward momentum, or do we have to have another downturn, like right here? So on a monthly sense, it's tougher to see the changes that happen. So you would want to look at a weekly sense and say, hey, is the momentum shifted? Is it starting to shift to the downside? Nothing conclusive in the month-to-month sense. So this is more how investors invest. If you look on this monthly, you could have said right here as it touches this line, and in the future too, that could be a good cue to when to buy Facebook. If you got the patience and there's nothing but time, then we can wait for these kind of events, right? We can wait for these events in the future and say, hey, if Facebook comes, let's say, in here, this might be a really good buying opportunity. It might be, historically speaking, a great risk to reward. That's what we could say. We almost could say we got immediate 25% potential reward just to get back to the trend. And then if we set a stop limit, or if you wanted to take this trade, like let's say right here, you could set a sell. Well, that's where you might want a gap so you don't get it filled, and then it shoots back up. But you could say it's a good trade. Why is it a good trade? Well, what's the risk of losing here? We got a potential, let's say 5% risk. Let's say you said that 5% willing to lose for 25. Well, you're getting 5 to 1 odds there, right? Right there, if you would have made that trade right here, you would have got 5 to 1 odds on a monthly sense. So it's not like you'd be buying and selling that often, and you could have just bought right here, and just for that alone. And never mind if you kept it and kept on riding it up. Once you enter in at some place like this, yeah, you can just basically kick your legs up and sail. Watch it, just keep going until, let's say, it clearly breaks this line. Clearly breaks to the downside. I would say that, okay, right here is a pretty good signal that, okay, we might be breaking out of this trend, but you can say Facebook is not a bad one just to hold long term. And definitely, by the way it has been acting, I mean, you can see the volume was a little bit higher initially here, a lot more buying and selling, and now it's basically, it's the volume's kind of died off a little bit. That's just on a monthly sense. I mean, it's tough to see that. I mean, I don't know if you can make too many things, too many statements, but we'll see what this month will look like. But yeah, let's zoom it in a little bit to a weekly standpoint. Let's see if this gives us any other better indicators. Let me just clear my voice a little bit here. So the biggest thing that I have to always tell myself as well is that you have to always approach all this stuff with a calmness in your heart and in your stomach. And that's the toughest thing when you're trading with money. So that's where sometimes people get recommended to not trade more than they're willing to lose to help reduce that internal anxiety about making these decisions that should be purely analytical and not based out of emotion. But when we have our money in a place that can potentially lose it, it becomes emotional really quick. So it's really tough to not have those feelings. So what I can say is that never make a trade out of fear, never make it out of greed. The best way is if you can stay relaxed and take some deep breaths and think about it in a real peaceful state. I mean, it's a pretty funny thing to say to someone when they're trading, which is go, 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 make the decision, right? But yeah, you can make a lot better decisions out of a calm state, a state of mind. You have to be in the right state of mind to be trading, and there's no other way to beat the market. That's why everyone loses, because we're all human and we all fall for the same emotions. So unless you can be better than those emotions, unless you can take yourself out of the equation, it's really tough to make good trading habits. I mean, the more you make, the easier it is to lose. So that's where I like really month to month kind of investing, especially like for me as a younger person. And if you're willing to hold on these assets for 5, 10 years, that's great. I mean, it all depends on the time frame and where we're at. Um, on a weekly sense here, we could say that, well, it's we could, let's just refer back to when it had its last down chug here, and that's going to be end of November in 2018. And we could see that, yeah, I think that's where it lost that 25%. Let's zoom out here a little bit. Yeah, it would have been right there. So those things on the monthly sense, you don't see them on a weekly, right? So you have to take a zoom out to get a bigger perspective of a bigger trend. And when you zoom things in, your focus has narrowed. You're getting blinders, right? You're looking only in the present moment. You don't have any good sense of how this has acted historically. So right from this high right here, you could definitely say that Facebook has respected these trend lines too. You could say it hugs this 13-day moving average pretty tight. I mean, geez. And then once it hits here, you could say that's almost a buy sign. Oh, it's hit, the 55 on a weekly buy. Here again, you could buy. I mean, here it's clearly broke though, right? It's clearly broke that support. So if we look at this, yeah, it's about a 30% loss. It's tough to, how you gonna say this? Like, how do you know if it's not this, right? Or right here, or right here when it gets picked up again? Well, you can look at some of these momentum things, right? Look at this momentum gauge here. It doesn't even take to the downside. that would indicate to me that we don't have a very much downward sell pressure here. There's not too many people emptying their bags. In this turn here, you can see that it is a little bit sharper. It starts getting sharp. When I say sharp, let me just get the paintbrush here. So this one kind of loops up, gets caught, and then loops again. So the fall isn't as steep. It's not coming straight down. Versus this one, it kind of has this looping effect, and it just kind of continues down. This one is more, it's trying to not do it. It's not just falling right off. So I'm just going to delete these. And there goes the whole MACD, so I just got to re-add that. Sorry about that. This is where the indicator's on. You could go into this for free too. All I'm using is tradingview.com, and you can just pull it up, and all you got to do is enter like a general username, and that's about it. Ah, crap. Just bear with me for 1 second. I'm not sure if it's gonna let me have it, but it should. It's saying I can't, but I just had it. So I'm gonna reopen it. I don't think you'll save that silly little last moment. So we'll just look up Facebook again. I don't know why I thought it was that. Good, yeah. So we're back. Ah, come on. Okay. Silly, silly, silly me. Ah, well, that makes it a little bit unfortunate. I think I'm just gonna, let's say, exit out of the volume right now because this thing is giving me some hassle. I'm not sure if my subscription ended or what. Now you get no indicators at all. No indicators whatsoever. I do really apologize for this. I'm not. It's funny enough, right? Yeah, I must have my subscription end because it's being a little bit of a bugger. So my apologies. We're just gonna use this one then instead, and I'll see if I can fix that in a later sense. But so back to where I was leaving off there. Um, yeah, okay. This little drop right here. it's crazy how much something like that can just lose your train of thought. But you can see why I like these indicators here because they give us a little sense of momentum. That's what everything is when you're swing trading and you're using momentum itself as something to dictate these movements. So I wanted to see like the actual trajectory of these downwards. It's all about the slope. It's all about the slope of the momentum. So the steeper the slope, the worse of the sell-off. So that's where sometimes you want to look at these things as high places like skyscrapers, and you should have a feeling when you're up there. You should have the fear of heights because when you're up here, there's more potential than ever for it to go down. It doesn't always go down just because it's up here. It doesn't mean a cataclysmic fall downward, but you can see like when we're up high, right here too, when we're up a little bit higher, we can have the potential to fall. Right here, we're up high, but it didn't have that fall. It wasn't so sharp. It was more of a gradual fall that caught up, and that's just the normal cycle of the market. It has these swings down and up, down and up, down and up. Sometimes it stays up, sometimes it stays down in the more pure bull market and the more pure bear market. And you could say Facebook has been pretty bullish overall for the long time. So that's where I want to like highlight these. So right here, these are all moments, especially in the longer time frame, when you can look at these, this momentum indicator, and kind of get a sense that hey, there's danger here. There's danger, and I mean the pullback wasn't that much right there, so to speak. But when you get the first tick back the other way, sometimes it's too late already. But let's say we just take a click right here. Well, when we get that first bar to the opposite way, it's our first sign that hey, momentum's changing. Momentum's changing, and do I want to ride the down cycle, or am I fine with holding and just riding the down wave, or do I want to sell? And each time, like, that's a call that we all have to make, right? I mean, with Facebook historically, a 30% decrease isn't the craziest thing to hold on. Dig in your heels and just hold on forever. Um, with other things, it's a foolish decision to hold these things. So you could say that Facebook holds this 55 EMA quite good, quite respectfully. Right here, it's broken down. It got caught, and came back up because that's just what happens. So you can see it was going down, 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 down. I mean, you're going to probably be aware, oh, Facebook's dropping right around here if you're not watching these markets, right? So that's where it's tough to catch these downturns before you lose that extra percent. And how do you know when it's going to bounce? You don't. So that's where these indicators come in as a secondary resource to try to make a little better educated decisions. So right here, I think when you've seen it come down and you're here now, it's just a matter of, okay, well, how much further is this going to round? What's the steepness of this? So you can see it's steep, 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 till about right here. And then we start making our change in momentum. And right here, our first indicator coming back, we have a little bit of uprise. Guess what? We kind of had a flattening here. That would scare a lot of people because it'd be like, oh, is this going to continue to the downside? Right? Once it actually comes this way, and then it kind of flattens. It flattens, and that's gonna give fear to people if you're playing this upward. But one more week goes by, and we continue on. We continue up here, and then it starts rounding again. So you can say, is this going to be sustainable? And it's not. It's not, and it has a little turn to the downside. And that's where we're at here. We got this little thing. We went up to the upside. So right now we're in a little downtrend, a little downturn of momentum. It's a question, how far? How far is this going to come dip? Are we going to have a dip underneath this 55 like we did right here and have it rebound back up? We can see up here we have a cross as well. Right there of the two moving averages, we had a cross right there, a cross right here. Sometimes these serve as, like I've said, sometimes they serve as clear indicators, and other times when it goes in back and forth and there's nothing clear, it's just like, I don't know if that's going to serve you well. But you could say right there was a kind of an indication that we have upward swing and momentum, and right there would have been like, oh, smokes. So I don't know if you would have made any money using these indicators because you would have got that huge sell candle. and you would have missed out regardless. So that's where I don't like trading too much in the day to day or the week to week. I think the biggest reason that I don't like to anymore is just like the way it makes me feel. And when I say that, it gives you this looming feeling of anxiety. When you got active trades and you're not sure which way the market's going, and at least I'm humble enough to admit that even with all this information, you're still running a little bit better than 50-50. Because no matter how good you are technically analyzing the charts, there's always stuff that doesn't work out to the way that it should. And good traders are just ones that are 55% of right. Most, they're not 80% right. By no means, they're just right a little bit more and make good ratio bets. So they have good risk to reward. They have good damage management. They don't lose money. They don't lose. They might not gain very much in some trades, but they don't lose money. Losing money is the worst thing when you got stocks because it ruins your potential for gain. So the best thing you can be at trading stocks is be a good risk manager, which means that you set tight limits. You don't get complacent with your holdings. You don't let them just drop 80% because you were busy doing something in your life. I mean, especially if you're trading actively. Um, when you get these long-term holds, like I'm currently holding gold and silver for a long term kind of play. That's because I don't want the stress of worrying about 10-15% fluctuations in the market. I've looked at the charts and they look great on a monthly sense, so that's where I'm putting the money in this holding. Facebook right here, yeah. I mean, it's tough to say how far this could drop down. Like, is it going to drop a little bit and get caught, or is it not? Um, just look at the daily sense. So yeah, on the daily, we could say it was up pretty top here on the momentum. Then we would add a little bit of an indicator right here that we're going down, and it looks like it's gonna fake out, and looks like we had a failure. So right here, let's just look historically how well it's respected this white line. It's not quite as good on the daily average. Sometimes it's better to look at something like 100 moving average. Let's see. You can see it's somewhat respecting it here. It acts okay as support and resistance. Let's just try it one more since all my darn indicators got chinsed away. So here, the 200-day, it looks like Facebook on a daily respects the 200-day moving average pretty good. And yeah, right here we had a breakdown, but it got caught back up. Right there had a clear break of that 200 moving, and it fell, and that's where we lost that 30%. It went back up, it kept on being supported here, held it up once, held it up twice. The third time right here, it's seeming like it's not completely holding, but the whole market, right? I mean, Facebook itself isn't having any change. I mean, it's busy as ever. I mean, it's not like they're just going to go belly up next month, right? So Facebook's a pretty good thing. How much more downturn could we have? We could use some of these indicators, like just in terms of momentum, pure momentum. We could say is something like in here, something within one of these. So that's not too much, not too much more to go. I'm not sure if I'd be tossing this one away with the kitchen sink right now. I'd probably just hold on to Facebook if I was you. I mean, historically, it's held pretty darn well. Um, it doesn't have a 200 on the monthly. You could say if I now have it a 200-day. You could see it almost like comes and touches there, and yeah, I don't know if I'd use that a whole bunch, but let's go back to the daily here. You can see it have this wick down here. Um, you can almost see like it's already been caught a little bit. This is starting to turn around right here. The momentum hasn't completely shifted around yet, but yeah, we got this big wick here. It might continue on to the downside quite easily, but what goes up must come down, and give you your first little snippet of, let's say, some Elliott wave here. And usually whenever we have a downturn, let's say right here we take the highest point, it follows some type of A, B, C, a three-wave correction pattern. So let's say we look at this last one, be something like, then it continues on. That's not very pretty at all. My apologies, but that's how they break this down. So 1, 2, 3, and then continue on. So right here, we could say that maybe we're coming near completion of this correction wave, and we're just going to continue on like it's went. So things to observe with Facebook is a change in momentum. Like this would have been probably a good buy opportunity. You could probably almost just blindly buy if it crosses this down here. You could say, I'm buying, I'm buying. What's some precautionary supports that I'd lay down? I could say if you wanted to be tight, let's say right there, 172. You could say the next one, 161. Right in there, 124. I mean, definitely wouldn't want those to be crossed. And it did just creep into all-time highs, so that's a good sign. I mean, you always want to have higher highs and lower lows. So as minimal as it was, like you could say that's a lower high. That's not good. That one doesn't reach it, but this one actually, that actually, that actually is a higher one. It's small, but it's higher, which is saying that we're still on a good trend. We could say right here, this is a higher low. Same thing here, higher low. And right here, this looks like it's going to be a higher low too. And if that's the case, there's no real reason to get out of this stock because it just keeps making higher highs and lower um, or higher lows. So it's still moving upward here. So I think for me personally, I'd definitely be looking at Facebook a little bit more if it breaks something like 172 right here. I know that's quite a bit to give here, but I'd probably just, me personally, I would wait for this momentum because Facebook historically drops barely 30% before it recovers. That's the worst one we've seen for a while, and this one right here already, we're already at 18%, so a lot of these corrections are about that much, and then it continues on. When we look a little bit more back, let's say we just do a couple more. Let's say we look right here, right to there, 27%. Here, here, it's only 12%. There, it's 23. And let's say we take this big one, this big bazooka drop, 40%. That one was, yeah, it was pretty bad historically for Facebook. 16%. So yeah, right there would be a 22% decrease. I don't think it'll fall below here. There's a couple reasons that I wouldn't give it off very fast because it's continually making these highs. The momentum on a daily sense is almost ready to turn around. Maybe we have more room here. Maybe Facebook will drop into this range the next few days. I couldn't see that being totally implausible, but in terms of if you're talking for years at a time, like there's no real reason to sell Facebook unless you wanted to try to sell it. But I would have sold it up here, right? I mean, if you're gonna be buying and selling them on the daily charts, the time's already lost. Unless we're having a complete market breakdown, I don't think we are. I'd suspect Facebook to drop somewhere in here, which could be thought of as a good buying opportunity because you can see the momentum's kind of down on that daily sense. On the weekly sense, we are up here. We are up here, so just gonna change this moving average back. You think about anything long enough, you can come up with the alternative. But yeah, we are coming into a downturn in the weekly sense here. So it's not crazy to expect something to fall within here. So that's just where you can see here clearly that these are making lower highs. So maybe I'm going to change that sell to something like right here. On this sense, weekly, you could be right here and say, hey, I'm just not having it with this economic uncertainty. But I don't know. Facebook looks pretty solid overall to hold. I mean, you can see it gets supported here. Probably the worst case scenario, it's going to drop down to somewhere right like 150 and get bounced back. But on a monthly sense, yeah, who knows? It could still keep moving up. If the next ticker goes down, that could be a sign that, well, maybe this has a lot more steam to go down. Here, it still looks like there's potential, but on a daily sense, looks like we're approaching a pullback. Okay, so even if we are going to continue to the downside, let's say, it's not going to be without a little bit of retracement back up. So, like when you said you sold Apple today when it bounced back, that's what I mean. Like, yeah, so if it's coming down, this day thing will make it come back up, somewhere right here. And then if the weekly downward sell action is strong still, and there's still a lot of negative sentiment in the market, maybe we will continue down, but not before it continues back up. So Facebook, I mean, I kind of rambled all over the place and had the trouble with the indicators, but yeah, I think overall, long month sense, I mean, this is a good one just to hold on to. You can see the growth is slowing a little bit. It's not quite increasing the same way as exponential as it had, but it's had a good run. And it seems like right there was the down, in a monthly sense, the worst of the negative buy side pressure and sell side pressure. Sorry. And now it's just kind of hovering. I don't think it's giving you too much. It's a hold on a monthly sense, on a weekly sense. It's still above this 55 here. I mean, you could also have this as a sell limit. Let's say right there. But these will wick through here all the time, so you might do a lot of buying and selling. It just depends on how tight you want to be with your position, but I think Facebook's gonna be okay. Kind of like TD, like unless the whole market's gonna crap out, it's gonna be fine. So I'd say more this just wait and see with Facebook. It's quite the big spread there for buying and selling, but yeah. Hopefully it was an okay video. Sorry to ramble along. I know it's a long one. All right, see ya.